Get 5 coffins ready.
Hey everyone, welcome to my guide for Odin. Odin is one of the OG Smite gods and is extremely flexible. He is good in the jungle, support, and solo lane roles. But since solo lane is where he's been for some time, that's what this guide will focus on. Build-wise, Odin likes to focus on heavy tank items and cooldown reduction. Odin does a boatload of damage, but stacking a bunch of damage on him actually doesn't produce as favorable results as slamming a bunch of high defense and high cooldown items does, especially given the insane take items in Season 10 right now. Relics wise, you absolutely need teleport in this brave new Season 10 world. Second relic, well, it's a bit of preference here, but I really can't see value in any other relic other than Blink for this second slot, for multiple very good reasons we'll get to. For your first shard, you can kinda go whatever, but Claw and Wing Shard are both totally good on him. Odin's passive is one of the more unique in the game, despite its simplicity. Odin gains percent movement speed as well as power for every god, enemy, or ally who has recently died, for a whopping 8 seconds per god, as well as stacking up to 8 times. Like Hemdallier's passive we touched on last time, for a lot of the match, this seems like it's a bit out of your control and not something you can really play around. And this is mostly true. Typically with passes like this I say, the Odin players who make the most out of this are the best, but really you can't play around it too often. In practice, this passive is mostly felt in later game teamfights and during 2v2 and 3v3 skirmishes, and mostly what it does is enhance good decision making and help make Odin better the longer the fight goes, since once the bodies start dropping, Odin will be getting stronger. This obviously doesn't mean that if your entire team dies, it's time to 1v5, but it more so rewards the good decisions to prolong certain fights and disengage on others. So never forget about your bonus strength after a god has died in a fight, but don't forget that the bonus power isn't enough to make you Superman either. Moving on to Odin's first ability, which is another open-ended simple ability. Odin leaps and deals damage in a huge circle AoE upon landing. And that's about it. Really, there's 2 great strengths to this ability. Firstly is the cooldown of the ability. It starts out around where you'd expect, but as you level the ability, the cooldown just gets lower and lower until you realize that Odin is a rare case of a tank who's just jumping around the battlefield endlessly, both to the enemy's detriment and to his own benefit when it comes to escaping. He's very reliant on this ability for safety as much as damage, but the ability would be nothing if not for his other abilities to use this with, namely his second ability. Odin shields himself for 4 seconds, and once his shield expires, it will deal massive damage in an AoE around Odin relative to the remaining shield's health, getting a bonus on the damage if the shield is still at full HP. That sounds tricky to pull off, but it's made easier by the fact that Odin can use his first ability while this ability is active to instantly explode the shield upon landing, leading to absurdly high damage. So this, being easily the highest damage 2 ability combo in the warrior class, seems like it'd be the go-to for, well, everything really. But it's not that simple. Keep in mind that this 2-1 combo, nicknamed the Bird Bomb, is consuming both your health shield and your leap in one go. So use it to clear the wave, and now you don't have a leap or a shield for trades against the enemy soul laner or a getaway in case the enemy jungler was around the corner just praying you'd Bird Bomb the wave. So while this little combo is great for bursting down targets, you actually want to use this sparingly, and actually use it more for steamrolling down kills in teamfights rather than starting fights and or clearing waves with it. And generally you actually keep this ability as exactly what it's stated to be, a big ol' health shield, which, no shocker here, also has a relatively low cooldown. Okay, so the less fun but oftentimes a more effective option is leaping in, basic attacking, then activating the shield, then trading from there, at least against most soul lane opponents. But what to do once you're in their face? Just basic attack? Well, yes actually, but eventually you're going to want to pop your third ability. Odin becomes immune to knockups and begins pulsing in an AoE around him, dealing damage and slowing in the AoE. The first pulse will grant attack speed to any allies in the AoE, including Odin. The second pulse will allow his spear to home onto enemies, supposedly, and the third pulse will allow the spear to stun. Odin may reactivate this ability at any time to throw the spear. The good news is this spear will go through minions and stop on gods. So how it works is this: pulse once for the attack speed, pulse twice to do nothing, and wait for the 3 pulses for the spear to stun. And you can hold on to the spear for as long as you like. And just quickly about that second pulse, I've tried reading into it and I don't know what it's trying to say. It hasn't changed the ability whatsoever in my experience. So if anyone knows what the second pulse is actually doing, please let me know. But in turn, if you wait for the 3 pulses, you won't be getting that attack speed bonus. You need to fire the spear at the first pulse to get that attack speed, which is a bit odd but understandable. That third pulse is looking mighty attractive then, and for good reason. It not only allows you for good damage on the wave, as you'd imagine with those pulses, but allows you to easily conduct a mind game in which you pulse the wave, but hold on to the spear to make them guess whether or not you'll poke them or hit the wave. And this is a saving grace here, which enables Odin to avoid using both his 2 and his 1 on every single wave in existence. Of course, when you're winning lane, it's a great oppression tool too though. Simply 2ing and running at an opponent with this ability charging up is honestly far from a bad idea, and it's properly hard to deal with for some characters, and Odin can completely shove off people from clearing waves by doing it. I'm sure that the attack speed pulse is raising an eyebrow or two, and that often you want to save for the late game, but it's still not a shoe-in every time. Odin is the zoning character. He blinks on the enemy squishies every single fight and shields up, laying down this ability right in their faces. So really, whether you go for the stun or the attack speed is down to if your teammates are close enough to follow up on the stun, or if you're diving someone who can deal enough damage to you that you just need to stun them to pin them down and not try and duke it out with them with your newfound attack speed. It's very situational, so just start by always going with the stun in team fights and slowly trying to use the attack speed instead so you can feel out the best situations to go forward over the stun. Enough messing around though. Let's get to the reason Odin is such a great zoning character, his ultimate. Odin spawns a hexagonal shaped cage around him. The walls of this cage cannot be walked through by enemies, but are able to be destroyed by 5 basic attacks from any enemy, which is a good thing, since Odin completely negates all healing of all enemies and reduces the power of enemies in the cage by 15%, going back to what makes the attack speed bonus in his 3 strong when diving with the cage. If all that wasn't enough incentive to use this ability, whenever a god dies in the cage, Odin will permanently gain 5 power, and he doesn't even have to be the one to kill them, just so long as they die in the cage. You may be thinking though, can't any god with a leap or teleport just use their movement ability to go right through the wall? And yes they can, which is unfortunate. However, whenever an enemy god leaves the ring of spears, whether by leaping, teleporting, or walking through it with say a phantom shell, they will be heavily damaged and heavily slowed, which of course means extremely easy follow-up with the leap of your own. This does mean that your plan of action will change every match depending on the matchup. So I've done another tier list here of gods who can and cannot exit the cage on their own. The main use for the cage really is just blinking back there and snagging a squishy target in it. But don't forget about all those other uses a big ol' wall has. Walling off enemies as they chase you in the jungle, walling off projectiles such as Danzaburo ultimate, and so on. So try to keep it to single out the enemy backline, but don't forget about all the other uses a big ol' wall can have either. Speaking of which, some combos with Odin. 2, 1, 3 in the early and mid game against weaker gods like mages and hunters. 1 basic attack, 2 basic, 3 chase. 1 basic ult, basic, 2 basic, 3 chase. Blink, ult, basic, 2 basic, 3 chase with your 1. Blink 3, chase them with the 1, basic, ult, 2, basic. Okay, so in this example, it's a pretty basic Odin combo here. Got pretty lucky. I mean, look at that team. Literally 4 people I can cage: Poseidon, Hercules, Ra, Thanatos. Also very good target. So got a little bit lucky in that regard. But here I get a pretty good ultimate off. Show pretty good usage of the ultimate and small little combo as well. So let's watch. So the idea here, I was trying to jump over. I was trying to jump and then blink. As you can see, I had blink. But there's a minion on the floor, bro, that I jumped on. That was awkward. But anyways, let's run in. So I shield first. I shield first before anything else. And it was mostly because I felt like they were going to keep on trying to run down this kill. And then I use the Odin cage here because she's trying to run through there. So I Odin cage here. It's like a, imagine it's basically like a mirror ball that your allies can walk through. It's kind of busted as a wall if you really think about it. I mean, it's not just as a cage, it's as a wall too. So I wall in the Thanatos. She actually turns around, what a goat. But see, she actually uses the Odin cage effectively here because she can use her abilities over it while they can't hit her. So I mean, that's pretty nice. So hold the 2, hold the 3 over him. I actually don't think did I get the stun. So hold the 3 over him with the 2. Oh yeah, I did get the stun. Got the huge explosion as well over that. Then just chase him down, really. So I swap over to the Hercules here. I thought she had that, but she actually didn't. But anyways, then he just accepts his fate after that. So I thought that was pretty, we actually both used the Odin cage pretty effectively there. I think I remember this team was pretty good. Both used the Odin cage pretty effectively there. I used it to peel for her. She used it to peel for herself, basically. And then I just showed, hey, I didn't even need the leap. I just needed my 2 and my 3 and just running him with basic attacks, and he was dead. Well, in theory, he was dead. Anyways, we needed to chase him down, but still, you get my point. Okay, so if you like Thanatos, you might not want to watch this one. But this is basically just the potency of Bird Bomb, and also why I like leveling the 2. I guess I'm just a dork for big numbers, but yeah, here it goes. So I catch the enemy Thanatos in the jungle. We're both level 7. So keep that in mind. We're both level 7. I think around the same place in our builds. Good old boots. All right, let's watch. So it's a Thanatos, so I shield first because he might just scythe right out of the gate. So shield, and then try to run him down with the 3, stun, basic attack cancel, and then bachow. I don't think he got a single tick of my shield. He just saw me and the Baron and was like, oh, I gotta get out of here. So put the 3 on him, and then Bird Bomb, bow. I didn't even need to ultimate that, but I still kept the ultimate. It's just like, I didn't know if he had his ultimate or not. The ultimate will actually track him, by the way, if he ults out. But anyways, I basically held the ult as long as I could. And originally, I think my original plan here was stun him and then cage him. But I figured, you know what, I don't need to do that. The Baron's right there. So a quick basic attack into Bird Bomb, and he just exploded. Yeah. I mean, definitely help from the Baron as well, but I must have done at least half of his HP with that one Bird Bomb. So let's not, I did say don't Bird Bomb every single chance you get, but don't forget how much damage that does. Okay, so this is ancient. I think I actually might have still been, like, I think I was still in high school at this point in this clip. But anyways, so this is just showing the insane escape potential that Odin has. I mean, I juke a lot of stuff here, but a lot of it was also just down to Odin. Also, he had an old 3, his 3 got reworked. But I would still be able to do the same thing with the current 3, just so you know. So let's just run the clip. The commentary is too good. The commentary in the clip is too good not to include, so I'll just
He's gonna kill you.
Run it here.
No, you need to get the fuck out of here.
Oh, my blink was. Oh, god damn it, my blink had 1 second. Fuck.
I don't have anything. I have nothing. Terry's dying. Knock salt.
I'm so good at this game!
Okay, we don't need to hear that about. But hopefully you got what I meant about his low cooldowns. Obviously, I basically rushed full CDR right away with this build. But basically just showing how the low cooldowns on a leap and a slow and a shield is very, very effective at getting you out of very bad situations that you put yourself in because you're an idiot. For ability leveling, you want your 3 at level 1, and at the start of the match at your blue buff, you want to fire on the first pulse for that attack speed. Then you want your 1 at level 2, your 2 at level 3. Leveling from there is totally up in the air, but generally it's between your 2 and your 3 to max next. I like to max the 2, but the 3 really has some formidable damage on it, which enables very safe wave clearing. So just try them both out and see which one you prefer. You of course get your ultimate at level 5, but skip leveling it until your 3 main abilities are max, since leveling the ultimate has very little additional benefits. Odin is easily one of the most consistently effective warriors in SMITE, when it's the right matchup for him. When it's a good game for Odin, it is a good game for Odin, and the bad ones have an equal and opposite result for him. What determines a good game for Odin? Well, you guessed it, it's really just dependent on who on the enemy team you're able to cage with your ultimate and how effective it is to cage them, since frankly his laning phase is just fine. He doesn't lose any matchups too hard, but he doesn't win any too hard either. For instance, say you can safely cage their support, soul laner, and jungler, but not their mid or ADC. That's not really the best time for Odin. But let's say their mid laner and support are great cage targets, say like an RTO and a Hell, then it's easy pickings. Realistically though, all you need is one solid target on an enemy team that you can cage, and Odin is a solid choice. He clearly doesn't have the single target damage of someone like a King Arthur, Cuchulainn, Chaac, or Mulan, but he does still deal very respectable damage, and no warrior in the game can lock some gods down quite like Odin can thanks to that cage. Somebody recently asked about good warriors to pick up when you're new to the soul lane, and actually I think Odin's one of the better ones since he has a very clear game plan. Determine the best possible target on an enemy team to cage, and then cage them. There's obviously a lot to come out of his core 3 abilities, and you really need to mix it up and stop yourself from doing the same basic combos over and over again, since Odin's damage does tend to be easier to avoid than most other warriors, as in it's slow and dodgeable. But the low cooldown of the leap and the shield really make him a big problem for any squishy targets, and if things don't go well for him, it in turn allows him to be extremely hard to catch. That about wraps up my guide on Odin. Thanks for watching.